From Owando's anticipating that this will be another great conference like we had last year. The trade fair is an opportunity for us to pull together as a continent, plan our future together, but most importantly, bring down those barriers that stop us from achieving the great outcomes that we can jointly. I think if you look beyond our individual businesses, there's an ecosystem that needs to be developed. There are countries that need support in various ways, including mine, Nigeria. There are regions that need to be expanded in the way they do things, so from trade, knowledge transfer, collaborative engagements, and all of this wouldn't happen if we're not here having that conversation. So for us, it is our hope that coming here brings everyone together to have those discussions and hopefully bring out some actions from all that action.
Under the umbrella of the AFCFTA, how does Owando see its role in increasing intra-Africa trade, specifically within the energy and infrastructure space?
Before ITF, Owando has had a Pan-African business. We've never really paid attention to the barriers. We've just pushed through them. The company is, 30 plus years, having traded across pretty much at least 40-50% of the countries across Africa. So we understand the challenges, but it's never really stopped us. I think the more important question is, how does ACTFA bring us to a better position as a continent embarking on this ambition? First and foremost, we think the governments need to get serious, right? We do need to collectively move closer to this single trade agreement. We do need to move closer to, in my view, probably outside the realm of IATF, a unified currency. We see the strength of the European Union. We can't pretend like it doesn't exist. I think as Africa as a bloc, we are stronger together. And we do need to ensure that both private and public sector are working together to create dynamic policies that can not only get us there in the short term or the medium term, but also ensure that when we get there, it's a sustainable journey.
You've talked about Owando's Pan-African footprint, so to speak. If you can tell us a little bit more about the markets that you're in, perhaps what the biggest challenges were in setting up in those markets, and what opportunities you see going forward within Africa. Which markets are attractive for you now?
So Owando started off as a downstream company, a marketing company, and this company effectively traded refined products across the continent. Lomé, in Ghana, we had rep offices in South Africa, building a downstream position there. So we've sort of, and as we evolved into a midstream and then an upstream company, we deepened those relationships. We've traded crude out of some of the other African, crude oil producers, and we continue to do that because we do have a trading company today. Although we've divested from our downstream company and the midstream company, we have maintained our upstream oil exploration business and our downstream trading component. So we're still in the markets, still supplying refined products and trading crude across the continent. So that's on the first hand. On the second hand, we intend to continue to expand this into our renewable ambition. So we do have a company called Owando Clean Energy. We set it up 2 years ago. With great ambitions across the continent to bring to the fore scale and bankability to projects. A lot of the approach to that is really taking these projects from inception, de-risking them, and ensuring that they're sizable enough for our balance sheets to then push them forward into the funding world. I know for a fact that renewable projects or clean energy projects are now extremely profitable. We're seeing about 3% to negative returns at the moment, but over the longer term, there certainly is, it is something we must pursue, and there certainly is a place for it on the continent.
And what do you think it will take to scale the green energy business? I mean, the rest of the continent is clearly focused within that space. It is not profitable, as you say, but what do you think are some things that African governments can do now to begin to open that space for scale?
I'd say it's often a wise idea to utilize what you have to get what you want. And I think Africa has a first priority to get its people out of poverty, get its people educated, and build the infrastructure and ecosystem that ensures that prosperity thrives. That largely will be done utilizing a significant amount of fossil fuels, especially gas. Although we currently contribute a small amount to global warming, or at least greenhouse gases, the effects of global warming are not assigned to the contributors. They're global as they are. So we're getting disproportionately impacted by these, and we can't ignore the transition. However, there is a fundamental responsibility to keep ensuring that we accelerate the development of our fossil fuels, to drive a robust balance sheet that can then tackle the transition. I say this with all sense of responsibility. The transition in its current form and cost cannot be a priority for the continent. The continent's priority has to be ensuring its people are able to continue to exist and to live in a dignified way. And as we do that, we must keep an eye on that transition, contribute and continue to accelerate and fund those transition goals. But it can't be one over the other, if you get my point. Yeah.
Expansion into other African markets comes with its challenges in political risk, regulatory challenges. What can you tell us from Owando's journey? How has the company been able to navigate these risks? And what recommendations would you have for African governments in as far as those risks are concerned?
I think to answer your first question, what's kept us going has just been grit, resilience. Africa certainly has its challenges, but as you can attest to, great opportunities on the continent. We have the youngest youth population, globally at the moment. We certainly do have the minerals and resources to drive a transition. Earlier today, I made the point, there is no transition in the world without Africa. And for me, just understanding and underscoring that point is to the fact that all you need for a transition resides on the continent. The natural resource of the sun, the minerals on the ground to hold the energy when you eventually produce it, but other forms of clean energy, hydro, geothermal, etc., etc. Now, how do we ensure that this turns into value for all of us? Governments must do more on the policy side. I see a lot of governments take a view on at least the transition ambitions. Nigeria has set its sights on 2060 for a net zero. Some of the internal states within Nigeria have accelerated that, like Lagos State, for example, who have advocated for a 2050 net zero time frame. Now, what's critical to note about that is you will notice those taking it really seriously are policying to support that. So currently we're working with Lagos State to transition their mass transit to electric vehicles. We believe that not only is it possible, it is certainly cost effective, easier to manage and operate, but the most important component of that is contributing to cleaner exhaust emissions, right? Okay, in this case, the exhaust emissions are basically water, right? Okay, we get rid of the greenhouse gases. We've concluded the proof of concept phase of that, and we're into the pilot, delivering the next set of buses, 100 buses to come into Lagos State, and then moving on to full scale where we would replicate this across other states in the country. I believe the governments must see this as an opportunity. We have seen governments that are certainly leaning forward in this direction and doing the right things. And I think it's just a matter of just, imitating where it works and looking at the blueprint that exists globally, because nothing we're doing is new.